to Hermetic Journeys. Here we are, out here in the fields, where I fight for my meals and get my back into my living. Oh, wait, no, I don't do any of that stuff. Anyway, that's an old song by The Who, isn't it? Remember them? I do. Oh boy. Anyway, we're here to talk about agriculture and alchemy. Emblem VI of Michael Myers' most magnificent, wonderful emblem book, Atalanta Fugiens, illustrated by Matthias Marian. Pretty cool illustrator, copper plates and all that. Of course, we all know that stuff, right? Because you watched all the videos. Anyway, so let's take a look at Emblem VI and find out exactly what all this is about. We see in this lovely emblem, colored by Adam McLean, a countryside setting here. We've got a farmhouse back there. Of course, we have some furrowed fields. And we see a man spreading seed, what appears to be seed. In actuality, it's gold. He's sowing the fields with gold. So let's see what the motto says. Okay, the motto says, sow your gold in the white foliated earth. Now, I decided to take a new strategy concerning learning what Michael Myers is talking about in his work, okay? I thought, instead of trying to figure it out from my own sources, why don't I take a look at his sources? So I did. So I'm taking a new approach here, and what I found was that it is far easier to understand what he's talking about when we look at his sources. So it took me, 12 videos to figure this out, months to figure this out, but I think I've come upon a way in which to better understand this work, this incredible work. So I did a search for sow your gold in the white foliated earth, and I came upon an old alchemical manuscript. It's actually a collection of manuscripts called the Artis Auriferae, and within the Artis Auriferae there is, and pardon my Latin if I'm butchering that, and within that work there is a manuscript by an unknown author that says specifically, sow your gold in the white foliated earth. And I'm going to read from that little paragraph, only he gets more, he explains it, as opposed to Michael Myers, who kind of doesn't. He's not very forthcoming, as we all know, right? So, it goes like this. Hermes said, and we all know who Hermes is, right? Hermes Trismegistus, right? Sow your gold in the white foliated earth. Well, bingo, there it is, all right? He lifted it directly from this, okay? Which means, we're getting somewhere now. Sow the vapor and the color-giving force in the white earth, which should be made white and pure by preparation, and in which no dirt is present. Now, two key words here, of course, vapor. As soon as we hear that, we know, okay, we're talking about the creation of metals within the womb of Mother Earth, and the color, a color-giving force, okay, in the white earth. So white, of course, is the purification process, right? Remember, we talked about the three phases of the alchemical process, the black phase, the white phase, and the red phase. The white phase is, of course, the purification process. We all remember that, right? So vapors, remember when we talked about the worldview of folks from the 12th to the 16th centuries in terms of how metals were manifested within the earth. They talked about vapors, right? Vapors from material that was similar to sulfur and mercury. They compared it with sulfur and mercury that created the metals, okay, or would determine the properties of the metals. So if we're talking about, remember, something like lead, okay, it was in earth that was not very pure, and the vapors were sometimes out of balance, which would create lead. It's not perfect, okay. When we're talking about gold, of course, it was in purified earth, right? Good soil, and of course the vapors were perfect, and thus creating gold. Okay, so that's what we're talking about here when he says, sow the vapor and the color-giving force in the white earth. And there's white earth again, okay, which should be made white and pure by preparation. Well, the preparation is through the white phase of the alchemical process, and in which no dirt is present. Okay, so obviously we're not talking about farming here, because you need dirt to farm, to grow things, right? So that's what I think Michael Myers is talking about here. And the image of the man throwing the gold into the foliated earth, okay, is the white foliated earth, of course, relates directly to this concept. So we have two things going on here. We have, of course, the purification phase, all right, and inside the earth that will bring us, the purified essence. Okay, so I want to jump to the epigram here and pay particular attention to the last sentence of the epigram, because that's the key to what's going on here, in my opinion. Okay. So the epigram says, the farmers entrust their seed to the fat earth, and after having foliated it with their mattocks, and I had to look up mattocks, I had no idea what a mattock was. I knew it was a policeman in an old television show. But anyway, a mattock is kind of like a pickaxe, okay, and that's how farmers foliate their earth, okay. Back then, the philosophers have taught that gold must be scattered over white fields, which react like a light leaf. When you understand this, pay good attention to it. Now pay attention, Mikey. For from the wheat you see, as in a mirror, that gold germinates. And this is a very important sentence. When I think of gold germinating, I think of two things. What we just discussed in terms of the gold being germinating within the earth, okay, all right, that would create more gold. Now there's one other thing, the second part of this, and that is in terms of the alchemical operation, the use of mercury. Remember we looked at Robert Allen Bartlett's book, Real Alchemy, and he talked about purifying mercury using antimony and a couple of other things, the doves of Diana, the silver, and all that stuff. And mercury, in its purified form, is also known as white mercury. Okay, so there's your white fields, and they're going to combine it with the gold to create an amalgam to create the Philosopher's Stone. Now, after we create the Philosopher's Stone with the white foliated mercury, okay, what happens? Well, we can use it for two things, right? An alchemist, that is, not me. An alchemist can use it for two things. Of course, as a universal panacea, which is the most wonderful thing that it can be used for, and transmuting common metals into gold. So how do we, again, the last sentence here, for from the wheat you see as in a mirror that gold germinates. How do we germinate? How do we create more gold? By taking a common metal and applying the essence of the Philosopher's Stone to it, and it turns it to gold. It transmutes it to gold. That's what alchemists believed. Okay, so that's what this emblem, this part of the emblem, is about, in my opinion. I think I'm right on this one. I know it's pretty tough stuff, but I think I've got it here. So in order to kind of reinforce what I'm saying in terms of exploring Michael Myers' sources, all right, I searched around a little bit for agriculture and alchemical imagery, and I found this really interesting image from an alchemical manuscript, and the name of the manuscript is the Viridarium Chemicum. It was published in 1624, okay? And here in this image, as you can see, we have two angelic figures, and I'm going to read to you the description of what is going on in this image. The image is titled, Alchemy is Celestial Agriculture. Well, bam, there we go, right? Here, gold and silver, the sun and moon, are added to matter as fermenting agents to increase it. You can see the man throwing gold and silver into the foliated earth, and so that's what he's doing. Just like the man in Emblem VI, he's got his little bag of gold and silver coins, and he's throwing them into the earth, because we're going to use gold and silver, and again, silver could be silver, it could also be mercury, to create the Philosopher's Stone. Okay, and here we see this mirrored in the same imagery that Michael Myers uses. It's kind of cool. I was really proud of myself when I found this. I found it in my book by Alexander Rube, Alchemy and Mysticism. It's a great book. So how can farming or agriculture be compared to alchemy, or used as a metaphor even further? Let's take this even further than Michael Myers taking it, or maybe he is. What I remembered was that the law of correspondence, okay? Remember, from the Kabbalion, right, we talked about that everything is related, everything corresponds. So correspondence is a big word here. In the alchemy videos, we talked about how alchemists, before they work with either a plant or a metal, must determine the time of year that it is, the day, the hour, because the day, the hour, the week, the year, these are all linked to planetary influences, right? Celestial influences. And that's very similar to farming, right? A farmer has to sow seeds at the right time of year, right? You don't want to sow your seeds at the middle of winter, nothing's going to grow, right? And it has to be aware of when to harvest the crops, how to take care of the crops, it needs the sun, which is the fire, okay, in the alchemical process, and it needs to be watered, which could be any manner of solution that is used, okay? So you see the parallels here between alchemy and agriculture. Michael Meyer is on the money here, in my opinion, because there are many similarities, especially considering correspondences, the time of the year, all right? In the spagyrics video, we talked about using lavender as an herb to create a spagyric, and lavender fell under the auspices of Mercury. And so we had to do it on a Wednesday, because Wednesday is a day of Mercury, and it's at a particular hour. So you'd have to, go out and harvest the lavender and begin working with it on a Wednesday. So just like the farmer, the alchemist has to do the same thing. Has to be aware of the time of year, the seasons, and the planetary influences, okay? The celestial influences. So that covers a big part of this emblem. There's one other thing I want to talk about, and we're going to bring back an old friend. Not really sure if he's a friend, but we're definitely going to introduce our mystery guest for this particular video. So stay tuned. Here we go. Okay, so we're back with an old friend here. Oh, I'm not sure he's a friend. Back by popular demand, the Angry Mummy Candle made such a splash in my last video that I figured I'd bring him back. So kudos to you, my good friend. Anyway, there's one more thing I do want to talk about, and we're going to introduce our mystery guest, okay, in a moment. When I was reading through the discourse, another little hint that Michael Meyer dropped was something about this particular person. Although it was such an off-the-cuff mention that I kind of glossed over it at first until I went back and I read it and went, oh, okay. So let me read the part of the discourse I'm talking about, all right? Michael Meyer says here, hence the philosophers affirm it, meaning gold, to be sowed in the white foliated earth. We already know this. As if they would have said that the sowing of wheat must be looked upon as an example and consequently imitated. So again, he's talking about the wheat here, okay? Wheat as in a mirror to gold. Keep that in mind. Wheat's very important. Which the author of Tractatus de Tritico and Jodoc Graverus have most excellently performed in their descriptions. Now, I again, looking at sources again, I looked at Jodoc Graverus, I couldn't find anything. I went for Tractatus de Tritico, and as it turns out, the author of that was our old pal, once again, Robert Flood. Yeah, let's hear it for Robert. What about you? Robert Flood, remember him? Oh, we mentioned him in several videos. He's quite the guy. And he produced a particular work called The Theater of Anatomy, right? And you can see the image here, all right? He focused on his work with wheat. Apparently Robert Flood, and as far as I'm aware, was one of the only people to work with, one of the only alchemists to work with wheat. It's very interesting stuff with it. So this image depicts what Flood calls the universal man, and he's holding a large circle called man or microcosm, the admirable receptacle of all these subjects, okay? Of the three large circles, the circle on the left is entitled The Bright Mirror of the Anatomy of Wheat or Bread. And it displays a loaf of bread, which has the letter A above it, a stalk of wheat, which has the letter B above it, and a division of wheat. And the alchemical equipment is to the right of that, and that's the equipment that he used for his work with wheat. What's interesting is that he came up with a balm, a salve, and apparently he suffered from some sort of malady in his hand. and he took the balm or the salve that he created with the wheat in his alchemical experiments, okay, and he put it on his hand, and it cured the issue he was having with his hand. And there's an entire statement here that he says, and I'll just read a little section of his. And verily, I must really confess that I once, finding myself very much molested with an ache and debility in the back of mine own hand, I therewith did anoint the back of my hand from that hour, being 3 years since till this very season, I never felt that pain wherewith I was ordinarily affected before that time. And he goes on to say, what this quintessential balm is the very spirit of the starry heaven replenished with the bright beams of the sun. So Robert Flood believed that the sun, the essence of the sun, all right, imbued itself in the wheat, and in the wheat, and then the wheat, after being ingested or after he started working with it in his alchemical laboratory, he used as a balm to cure an issue he's having with his hand. So wheat was a very big component of Robert Flood's theories. Okay, as you can see from that image, I mean, he holds it in very high esteem. To my knowledge, he's one of the only alchemists who worked with wheat as a cure for illnesses and things like that. So I found that to be very, very interesting. This is fascinating, right? And Michael Meyer mentions wheat, of course, in the last sentence of the Epigram, wheat, the germination of wheat being a mirror to the germination of gold. And so he obviously got that concept from Robert Flood and his theater of anatomy, study on wheat, okay? So that's what I wanted to talk about in this little section here, and I hope this is all clear. I hope it all makes sense for this particular emblem. And I did a lot of research, and now I have a new approach to this in which I think will help us better understand Atalanta Fugiens, and that is looking at the sources that Michael Meyer uses instead of trying to make heads and tails out of what he's talking about. The sources reveal far much more than Michael Meyer does. And with that, let's take a listen to the music of Emblem VI. Welcome back. We're here to talk about the music to Emblem VI, of course. And I took the MIDI files from Adam McLean's wonderful website and imported them into my software. And that's what you'll be hearing. In terms of imagery, I'm going to employ the use of other alchemical emblems having to do with agriculture and alchemy. So you'll see some things from Daniel D. Stolzes von Stolzenberg's work, Viridarium Chemicum. You'll see some of those in there and some other things from Atalanta Fugiens as well. Okay, so sit back, relax, put your headphones on, and enjoy the music to Emblem VI. Thank you so very much for watching this video. Hope you guys enjoyed it. Thank you very much to my new subscribers, and there's a couple of them. This is really exciting. And to those of you who have been watching for a long time, I again, from the bottom of my heart, thank you very much. All right, so I hope this emblem made sense. I hope we had a little fun with the angry mummy candle, of course. You know, let's do this again sometime. All right, emblem number 7, Atalanta Fugiens, next time. So stay tuned and farewell for now.